Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful Period 1 AP Biologist. Say hi.
Hi.
And we are starting on section 7.3 of our book, In Plants Convert Solar Energy. So we're going to focus, this next bit is going to be on the light reaction, but I want to back it up just a little bit and remember the two parts that we're going to be talking about. There is the light-dependent reaction and the light-independent reaction. The light reactions are going to capture that light energy and excite electrons so that you can do an electron transport chain. Now remember, when we modeled this last time, that electron transport chain is going to do two things that you're going to do there, right? In the electron transport chain, it's going to immediately take hydrogen ions from one side of the membrane and concentrate them on the other side, okay? But then we can harvest that energy when those hydrogen ions come back through. What can we synthesize as a result? ATP, okay? So you're going to get ATP from that process, so that's going to get you some energy. And also, we can take those electrons and we can give them to, at the end, NADP. Making NADP will then be what when it gets those electrons, that energy? The NADP will become what? No. We're making ATP, but we're giving the electrons to someone. What happens when you gain electrons? You become, yes, thank you. You become what? Reduced. Real quickly before I go any farther, Blue, could you please differentiate between oxidized and reduced? Go ahead. All right, so when you become reduced, are you gaining or losing energy? Gaining. How do you gain energy? Electrons. And that's where the word reduced comes from, right? Because you're reduced in charge, because electrons have a negative charge. Okay, you're reduced in charge. Now I'm going to tell you, just based on what you're saying so far, okay, you haven't reviewed that material since the last time I saw you, okay? And when you walk into class not having reviewed that material since the last time I saw you, it makes it harder for me to build on it, okay? So make sure you're taking the time, even if it's like 10 minutes, to look back over the previous material before you walk into class each day, okay? Am I inundating you with homework? How much homework did you have last night? Terms. How many terms did you have to do? 10. Okay. So that was not a lot for an AP class. Could you have watched an ed puzzle? Yes. Could you have reviewed? Yes. Tell your bio buddy right now, do you need to step up your game a little bit? And wait for that response. All right. Come back to me now. So when you get reduced in charge because you're getting more electrons, and electrons have a negative charge, but electrons also equal energy. Between hydrogen and oxygen, which one of those atoms is more likely to give you electrons? Hydrogen. When you hook up with hydrogen, you're going to gain energy because you're gaining electrons. So what happens due to the light reaction, you will get ATP, which is energy. You will form reduced NADP, which is storing energy, and you will take that to the light-independent reactions. And it's there in the light-independent reactions that you actually do crank out your sugars. And in order to do that, we know sugars, we know the formula for photosynthesis, yes? Slate, tell them the formula for photosynthesis, please. Okay, so if you go from left to right, this would be the formula for photosynthesis. So that energy comes from where? The sun. Okay, and the carbon dioxide is used in the light independent reaction. Okay, and that CO2 that you use in the light independent reaction is what's actually going to form that glucose, right? And then the water is used in the light-dependent reaction because it's the source of electrons. So these electrons, these hydrogens right here, are going to end up right here. But the thing that's going to carry them is NADP, is what's going to take those electrons from water and hand them off to CO2 in order to form your glucose. Okay? And so you're going to need to energize them, and you're going to energize them with energy from the sun. Okay, the C6H12O6, that is going to be an end product of the light independent reaction, and the O2 is going to be a product of the light dependent reaction. Okay. Questions, concerns you want to ask me? Okay, so I'm going to come back to here. Okay, so this would be your light independent reaction. This is your light dependent reaction. Okay, so the CO2 is going to come in, and we're going to use these hydrogens that are here, hook them up with the CO2 in order to make your sugar. Okay, when you're done, you won't have ATP anymore. You'll have a what? DP. You won't have reduced NADP anymore. You'll just have plain old NADP. Okay, it will now be oxidized, and it can be reused again here in the light reaction. And the ATP can be reformed here in the light reaction. So you have an input of electrons and hydrogen atoms right here from water. Okay, so this right here is hooking up with this in order to make this down here. Okay, so that's your source of electrons in order to build your glucose. Oldest BioBuddy, talk them through this reaction. Make it make sense to you as you're explaining it. Go ahead. Okay, I hope you're done. I'm sorry if you're not. So right now, the section we're entering into is just talking about the light-dependent reaction. So we're going to start by talking about the sun, the light. Okay, so on your notes, you have introduction. Most of the light that hits the Earth's surface is visible light. Younger BioBuddy, I just put in a couple other fun facts there for you. And younger BioBuddy, can you explain those two fun facts there, number 2 and number 3?
Higher energy is screened out by the molecules. Lower energy is screened out by water vapor and CO2.
Okay, take a look up here. Find the pigments. They're flashing for you. Do you see them? Okay, so those pigments, this is your visible light. Maybe you've heard of Roy G. Biv, right? Okay, and you can look at the wavelengths of light. If you can look where UV rays are, X-rays are, gamma rays are. The shorter the wavelength, the more what it has. Yeah, the more energy, the more power it has, the shorter the wavelength. Okay, so when you look through here, these are really small wavelengths, and then they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, and visible light right here, you have pigments that can absorb different wavelengths of those visible light, that can say, oh, I can absorb this one, it's at 500. I can absorb this one, it's at 750. So different pigments absorb different wavelengths of light. And so what you look at is you can see your absorption spectrum, and there's chlorophyll A, there's chlorophyll B, and carotenoids. Now let's just stop for a second. Carotenoids. What do you hear in that? Okay. Okay, carrots, right? What color are carrots? Orange. Okay. Here's the deal. The reason why they're orange is because they can't absorb that color. So this shirt is pink. Okay? The reason why it appears pink is I can absorb blue, I can absorb green, I can absorb orange, but I can't absorb the wavelengths that make up pink. So that is what you're seeing back to your eyes. if part of my skirt here is black, right, what is it doing? It's absorbing all the visible light. But part of my skirt is white, what is it doing? Reflecting. What color are plants? Green. Are they absorbing or reflecting green light? Reflecting. So if you grew a plant in a room with your only source of light being green, it might as well be what? Well, okay, it will be dead eventually, but it might as well be dark, right? Because they're not absorbing green light. They are reflecting it back to you so you can see it, okay? If those of you on cross country today, you're going to go run in Simi Valley, right? Known for being a tropical paradise or hot and dusty, okay? Now, what color shirt do you want to run in? A dark black shirt or a white shirt? You'd want to run in a white shirt because what will a white shirt do? Yeah, it's going to reflect all the visible light back out to you, and so it appears white. If you run in a dark shirt, what is it going to do? Absorb, and you will be hotter. Okay? So when you look at these different pigments, here's chlorophyll A. You can see an a point here where it's absorbing a lot of light, and this is in the blues, right? And violet colors here. And then look, it's down at 500, 600, all these green colors in here, it doesn't absorb. And then you have another one down here in the oranges and the reds. Okay, and you look at chlorophyll B, it sits just inside of chlorophyll A, picking up more of the blues and picking up more of the yellows. But the carotenoids, they're picking up all of these greens, but they're not picking up the orange and the yellow, so that's why it appears orange or yellow. Okay, oldest bio buddy, this, go ahead, the absorption spectrum, go ahead and explain that. Yes. Oh, question. I'm going to hit that. Right there. All right. Now, so light can do three things. Look at your notes right there. Okay. Light is either what? Absorbed, or it is transmitted, meaning it passes, hang on just a minute, or it passes through, or it is what? Reflected, right? Okay, so the absorption spectrum is a graph of the percent of light absorbed at each wavelength by each pigment. The types, chlorophyll A and B, the prominent role, they absorb violet, blue, and red, and they reflect what color? Green. You would put that in your notes. Carotenoids are an accessory pigment, so they're not the pigment, but they're a helpful pigment. Because what happens is you have this reaction center who really sets the electron transport chain off, and all the other pigments just absorb and pass on the energy. So it's like hot potato, hot potato, hot potato, hot potato, go! Okay, at the reaction center, and they start the electron transport chain. So they're all contributing. So carotenoids are accessory pigment, absorbing violet, blue, and green, and reflecting yellow and red. So if you look here, this is called a spectrophotometer. And it's super cool, okay? You can put vials in there and it can measure how much light is absorbed or transmitted. And so what this is called is the action spectrum for photosynthesis, meaning if you want to get action, right? If you want it to work, what wavelengths of light will it work best at? You could do experiments with photosynthesis. Remember, we did our very first experiment on photosynthesis at the very beginning of the school year. What did we use in our experiment, in our investigation? We used leaves. What leaves did we use? Spinach, okay? And what did you do? You hole punched the spinach leaves, right? And you put them in a solution of? Not sugar, baking soda. Okay, wake up. You put them in a solution of baking soda. Remember the whole suction thing where the water had to go into the leaves and you had to use a syringe? Remember that was super fun? Okay, so then as you would shine the light on them, what would happen to the leaf discs? They would what? They would float. And what did we vary in our experiment? The concentration, thank you, of the baking soda. Go, Grace Mom. Okay, so we would vary the concentration of the baking soda. But you could have varied what type of light you would shine on it, right? And you could write a hypothesis, either a research or a null. If you're writing a null hypothesis, did I scrub? No, okay. If I wrote a null hypothesis, what would I say? How could you write a null hypothesis? Youngest to oldest, what would be a null hypothesis about the action spectrum?
It would be like the amount of wavelengths used, like the amount of wavelengths used in the experiment has no reaction, has no
So if you wrote a
significance to the
null,
rate of
what would be a
osmosis.
good null for this? Anybody want to try a null? Go.
There's no relation between the rate of photosynthesis and the
Wavelength of light. Good. And then you would see if it was statistically significant. Yes.
I have like two questions.
Yes.
One, if I shine like only an orange light on a plant, would it absorb the orange light? Would it become green as well, or what would happen?
Well, it's probably going to be affected, like our ability to pick up what wavelengths of light are there. If you're only shining orange wavelength, then that's the only light that's in the room, right? So it could only reflect back those colors. We're going to run into questions like, what color are my clothes when the lights are off? Right? Well, it's dark. You can't see them. Now, we're going to go into a whole thing with senses, and let me address that when we get there, is our perception of what's going on around us, right? Because now we're talking about two different things.
And also, I was wondering, how does a computer pick color?
Okay, so we're going to have to talk about that at a different time. Yeah. Okay, so now, now, on your action spectrum, okay, this is where photosynthesis you would predict, you would hypothesize, would work best at, because this will provide the energy to excite the electrons so you can start your electron transport chain. So on your notes, go down to where it says photosystem. A photosystem is a pigment complex, and what do I have in parentheses right there? Yeah, so those are the pigments that are there, and electron acceptor molecules within a thylakoid membrane. Where are thylakoid membranes? Inside the chloroplast. Good. Okay. Now, I already got asked this question once before. What happens in the fall when you see these other colors? And here's the deal. There is so much chlorophyll in relationship to the other accessory pigments that that's all we see. They are there, we just don't notice them. But as the weather gets cooler, a couple of things happen. The chlorophyll breaks down. So now it's not there, and you can start to see some of the other pigments. And also, as the weather gets colder and the days change and the length of the day changes, you will have other pigments that start to form that are more efficient with that type of light. So that's when you start to see these other colors like reds and oranges. Take a minute right now, because we will revisit this tree throughout the year. Look at that tree out by our parking lot. It's pretty green, right? There are little patches of areas of different colors, but as we progress into winter, we're going to start to see other colors, and then we'll talk about when the leaves fall and how it gets nutrients transported up and down, so that will become another topic. Yes?
Is the breakdown of chlorophyll caused by not having like as much sunlight anymore, or is it not?
The temperature. Yeah, temperature will break it down. All right, so here we go. Let's check a few questions. We apologize to anybody watching this who finds our list offensive. We're really sorry.
Ooh, Kevin G. Oh, I love Kevin G. I love that. Fred
I made them take out the bad words and they had to put in other little things. I at least did that much. Okay, I'm not waiting for you. Too slow. Oh. So, good job. She doesn't even go here. Is butter a carb? Is butter a carb? It's a lipid. What is it built out of? Fatty acids and glycerol. And since it's butter, what kind of fat is it?
Dairy.
Saturated fat. Really good, AP biology. Okay, so the first part of photosynthesis, does it require membranes? Yes. What membranes? We just mentioned them a moment ago. Thylakoid membranes. Why do you need those membranes? Yes, you can capture the light. Does it need water? Yes. Water is a source of electrons that are going to get passed through that electron transport chain. Does it need light? Yes, to excite those electrons. Tell your bio, but did you get it right? Which one did you forget about? Go ahead.
I wasn't sure, but I knew it was thinking water and light.
Guys, we have 2 people who haven't logged in yet. I need you to log in because I need everybody to be trying for every single answer. So if you don't have a clicker, get it clicked in. Let's go. I need everybody to be answering.
I don't know why this one's great. I'm still not
Yay!
Oh, don't. Unless you want some. You go, and then I'll go.
Good job. There's no alcohol in it unless you want some.
Look at this one.
Is this a...
This one is.
Oh no, we are 20.
Dude, watch it be like violet.
Let's go, Regina George.
She's the main. She's the main girl.
No, she's not. Regina isn't. I thought.
Regina is.
She is? Oh. Hey, yay! Sorry, yay! Is that our record? It is. Good for you. 2. Shall we make it 3?
Oh, I got this. I got this. This is all me. I'm gonna be UJ. Ooh.
Mine's having...
Is that you? Okay.
Please, please.
Oh my gosh, it's a day.
Did we beat 3?
3. Okay, that ties you for second.
Ow!
Did we beat 3?
All right, here we go. Okay, there are more coming up. All right, so take a look here. This is a good overview of everything that's going to go on. So here comes the sun, okay, traveling in waves. Do. Okay, here's water. Notice it comes in as water, but it goes out as oxygen. What did it lose? Hydrogens and its electrons. Who did they get given to? They went through the electron transport chain. They got given to NADP, making it reduced. And then that reduced NADP is going, I don't know if you can see, sparkle pen. Wow. Every time. NADP is now headed over to the Calvin cycle. It's going to drop off the hydrogens it picked up. It actually picks up a pair of electrons and one stabilizing hydrogen atom. And then it's going to drop those off at CO2. The CO2 that we're getting, where are you, CO2? There you are. CO2 comes in, but what comes out? Yeah, carbohydrate, okay? And so then the energy for all this process is coming from the ATP. Now, here's the deal. We talked about the electron transport chains, right, and remember you said, would you record that? And so I recorded period 3, so that whole explanation that we did here is now up on YouTube. The thing in photosynthesis is there are 2 ETCs that occur, 2 light reactions that occur, so we're going to go through both of them. Okay, so take a look here. This is the simplest one we will look at. So here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. That sounds like it goes to something. Say that with me. Go like this, hand up in the air. Here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. Again, here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. Okay, perfect. Okay, now, so the sun comes in here and it's going to excite some electrons who are going to get passed through not once but twice through two chains. Now, the replacement electrons that get excited are going to come from water. So we just start with water, even though it really happens afterwards. It makes it easier to understand if you start with the water. So what a plant does is it has an enzyme to split water and separate it into hydrogen and oxygen. And that oxygen is awesome because we breathe it. The hydrogens contribute to our hydrogen ion gradient that we already discussed, and the electrons are what are getting excited in this electron transport chain. So when they get excited, they na-na-na-na-na-na, okay? And we're going to bring, remember when we said yay, and we brought hydrogens in, okay? The molecule that escorts it in is called PQ. And that's its name, big P, little q. Okay, and it brings the hydrogens to the inside, the interior of the thylakoid membrane, to the lumen, the space inside of it. And then when it wants to go back out, that's when you will make some ATP through the ATP synthase complex, okay? And then those same electrons that got excited once, they're going to get excited again at another photosystem, and then when they get excited, they're going to also come back down. But instead of going to the very bottom of the chain, if they make their way, we started here at the top, okay, if they go all the way to the bottom, they don't have any energy down here. So we're going to stop at part way and hand those electrons off to NADP, forming reduced NADP. Okay, because if we went to the bottom, they would be depleted of all of their energy. So NADP that was oxidized gets reduced. And then you're going to use that proton gradient where the hydrogens are to the interior of the thylakoid membrane, and we pump them to the interior so when they go back out, you can make ATP. So that's me explaining it through one time. Let's look at your notes, and then I'm going to have you guys take turns explaining it. Okay? And then we're going to learn a little thing there. So go to electron flow and light reaction, and this is called non-cyclic. Let me explain that. If it was cycle, the electrons would just go roundy, 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 round. But this is non-cyclic. So there's electrons coming in and electrons going out. Who are the electrons coming in? Who's bringing electrons into this system? Water. Okay? And the electrons are going out via reduced NADP. That's why it's non-cyclic, in and out. So on photosystem 2, discovered what? What did I have there? Second. Water is split, forming oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen atoms donate their what? What are they giving up? Electrons, and then become concentrated inside the thylakoid membranes. The electrons are excited by solar energy that was concentrated in chlorophyll what? A. And the molecules of the reaction center. These electrons become so excited that they escape to neighboring electron acceptor molecules, continuing through and down an electron transport chain. Energy is captured by PQ. It's easier to say PQ, right? As electrons move down the ETC and used to concentrate hydrogen ions to the interior of the thylakoid spaces. To concentrate hydrogen ions to the interior of the thylakoid spaces. To concentrate hydrogen ions to the interior of the thylakoid spaces. The electrons are passed then onto photosystem 1. Okay? The electrons are excited a second time by solar energy. a second time by solar energy, and the electrons are ultimately passed to NADP, forming NADPH. And this will be used by the Calvin cycle. Okay, oldest bio buddy, you're up. Go. Quickly. Start with water.
I'm just gonna wait for Sean to close the water is
Okay, now, who is that, oldest or youngest? Youngest, this is yours, just a different picture. See if you can do it. And then I'm going to jump in there. Go ahead.
like the solar system too. So the water, and you can see the water, the split between the oxygen and the hydrogen. The hydrogen atoms donate their electrons to start the process, and they become concentrated by the thylakoid membranes. The electrons get like really excited by the sun's energy. So then the color, or like the pigment chlorophyll A molecules, the reaction center.
Okay, put down your pens and pencils. I'm teaching it to you now. Okay? Pens, pencils, hands. Hold a watering can. Okay? You're going to water in 4 corners and you're going to clap on the 5th water. Watch. Water, 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 water. Do it with me. Water, 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 water. And I'm going to say, what are we going to do? And you're going to say, break it in half. Okay, so here we go. What are we going to do? Break it in half. And I'll say, and you're going to have to eventually learn my part too, so you can do it on your own. Okay, and then I'll say, what are we going to get? And you're going to go like this. Oxygen. Do it. Oxygen and electrons. Sweep, sweep. Now let me explain that. When you break water in half, what are the 2 things you're going to get? You get oxygen, right? Okay, and you're getting electrons from who? The hydrogen ions, which we will sweep into the interior of the thylakoid membrane to contribute to our hydrogen ion gradient. Did you follow that? Okay. All right, from the top, here we go. Oh, you know what? I did lose this on YouTube, but I found it somewhere else. But you're going to want to hear, there's the song part 2, and then we can record everything. If you want just part 1 from, that's fine. We can break it up, but there's 2 parts to this song. Okay. Here we go. Water, 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 water. What are we going to do? Break it in half. What do we get? Oxygen and electrons. Sweep, sweep. Now you know the next part. Put this hand up here. Here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. Do it again. Here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And I want you to look right here. There are 2 electrons here because there were 2 hydrogens from water, yes? We're also in photosystem what number? 2. Okay? Okay? All right. And so here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And you go like this, like little buddy foo-foo. You go, and it gets the electrons excited. And it gets the electrons excited. And then you go like this. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay, now, the na-na-na-na-na-na. Remember how we like, remember this part? And so you go like this, because PQ sounds like PU. So we remember, like we're bringing it to our nose, and we go PQ. And we're bringing more hydrogen ions in, okay? So you go, na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, PQ. Okay, here we go. Water, 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 water. What are we going to do? Break it in half. What do we get? Oxygen and electrons. Sweep, sweep. Here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And it gets the electrons excited. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. PQ. Then you go like this. And you make some ATP. and you make some ATP. So what's happening is we're taking those hydrogens that we brought in and we're making them go back out into the stroma. So you've got to go like this, and you make some ATP. And the is because now we're transitioning from photosystem 2. We still have the same 2 electrons, but we're transitioning into photosystem 1. So we're putting our fingers together. Here we go. And you make some ATP. Okay, this is our gang sign. Okay, then we go again. Ready? Here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And it gets the electrons excited. And this time we're going to stop part way. So we're going to go, na-na-na-na-na. Perfect. See, you just totally got that. And then I'll go, and who catches them? And you're going to go like this, up in the air because it still has energy. It's not like it's down low. You're going to go NADP, forming reduced NADP. Okay, from the top. Here we go. These songs have been sung for years. I'm just telling you. Okay, here we go. Water, 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 water. What are we going to do? Break it in half. What do we get? Oxygen and electrons. Sweep, sweep. Here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And it gets the electrons excited. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. PQ. And you make some ATP. Here comes the sun traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And it gets the electrons excited. Na-na-na-na-na. Who catches it? NADP, forming reduced NADP. Then you, now watch this part. Take some ATP and some reduced NADP to the dark reaction, or the Calvin cycle, or the light independent reaction. Okay, now watch. Okay, so. Okay, it's then you, and it's take some ATP and some reduced NADP, and I'm giving you all the names, so you know, to the dark reaction, or, and the other name for it is, or the Calvin cycle, or the light independent reaction. See, you totally got that. All right, here, let's do a na-na-na. We start with top. A na-na-na-na. Who catches it? NADP. Then, oh, shoot. Forming reduced NADP. Then you take some ATP and some reduced NADP to the dark reaction, or the Calvin cycle, or the light independent reaction. Yes, from the top. Oh. Okay, ready? Yes. Yes. But if you want just the light reaction, why don't you record it and I'll put it up on YouTube? Then everybody will have it.
I love learning about science.
Yes. Okay, wait. Ask your questions. Okay. So here's the deal. There's actually 6 waters that come into it. But see, I have a song for cellular respiration and photosynthesis, and they're linked. They cycle because it does go back and forth, right? So the last thing in cellular respiration that you do a na-na-na-na-na-na-na. It's the last thing. And we say who catches at the bottom? Oxygen forming water in cellular respiration. So there's 1 water right there. And then water, 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 water. Now we're up to 5, 6 waters. So that way it's a balanced equation. So it's because it links to another song. A little OCD. Okay, so tell me when you're ready to start. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing part 1 now of our photosynthesis song, and this is the light dependent reaction. There's another part, and this is my lovely period 1 class. Scan the class, scan the class. Ah! Okay, here we go. Oh wow, she can only twist. Okay, ready? Okay, so we're gonna start with water, right? Right, here we go. Water, 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 water. What are we gonna do? Break it in half. What do we get? Oxygen and electrons. Sweep, sweep. Here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons, and it gets the electrons excited. na, PQ, almost still. And you make some ATP. Now we were in photosystem 2, now we're in photosystem 1. Okay, here we go. Here comes the sun, traveling in waves. Particles of light are called photons. And it gets the electrons excited. Who catches it? NADP, forming reduced NADP. Then you take some ATP and some reduced NADP to the dark reaction, or the Calvin cycle, or the light-independent reaction. Yay! Okay, please stop. All right. Okay, perfect. Now, this was called the non-cyclic photophosphorylation. There is cyclic. Cyclic is not as efficient. And the reason is the electrons get excited, and the same electrons get excited, okay? And what happens is we're not forming, we do form, what's this? ATP, but we don't form any reduced NADP. Okay, so it's not as efficient, but it's a nice backup, okay, to the process. And then remember when I told you if you were going to have Hall of Fame bacteria, who would be your Hall of Fame bacteria? Do you remember this? Did we talk about oh no, I haven't talked to you about this. Have I talked about cyanobacteria? Okay, I'm sorry. I assumed I talked about it. Cyanobacteria probably caused the oxygen revolution about 2.3, way before Bernie Sanders, 2.3 billion years ago. And what that did is those cyanobacteria were able to do photosystem number 2, and they were able to do what to water? Break it in half, which started generating oxygen, which took our reducing environment that had no free oxygen, started putting oxygen in the environment. This allowed you to have then aerobic respiration and versus anaerobic respiration, which generates much less ATP. So that oxygen revolution allowed us to be multicellular organisms, because multicellular organisms require a lot more ATP. So this was first, okay? This part was first. So on your notes where it says electron flow, oh no, where am I? Yeah, cyclic. It says not as efficient as non-cyclic, used by prokaryotes when there are high oxygen levels, in eukaryotes, avoiding photorespiration, which we will talk about later. Water is not split and only ATP is formed. And only ATP is formed. Okay, and then I'm going to go here. Okay, and these pictures are all in your book. Okay, so I'm just going to make this part a little bit bigger right here. Okay, so let's look through this. This is a portion of a thylakoid membrane, like a hollow green pancake, right? And you can see here's water. Water's getting split. What gas do you have? Oxygen. And then sweep, what do you have? Some?
Electrons.
We're not sweeping electrons. Those got to go in our electron transport chain. We're sweeping hydrogen ions. That's your sweep. Okay? So the electrons are getting excited by the sun. We're in photosystem 2. What's going on right here? PQ. We're bringing even more hydrogen ions in. Okay? So the hydrogen ions are increased inside the thylakoid membrane at two different places. One, as a result of splitting water, the hydrogens are donating their electrons and they're brought into the thylakoid membranes. And two, PQ is contributing to the hydrogen ion gradient. And so then we have these hydrogen ions here, and you're able to, okay, get them excited a second time in photosystem 1, the electrons. And these electrons, look at this, NADP reductase. If it's reductase, ASE, it's an enzyme. Good. This is a protein in a cell membrane acting like an enzyme. Remember how we learned about that? Some have enzymatic activity. So then you're forming reduced NADP right here. And then if you look right here, we can see ATP synthase, ACE, right? then as the hydrogens come back out, you're forming ATP. So we can take some ATP and some reduced NADP to the dark reaction, to the Calvin cycle, to the light independent reaction. Perfect. So go to ATP production. The interior of thylakoid membranes serve as a reservoir for hydrogen ions. Coming from A, the splitting of water, and B, PQ. This generates an electrochemical gradient that is used to generate ATP through a process called chemiosmosis. Hydrogen ions move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration in the stroma using an ATP synthase complex channel. That's super fun. ATP synthase complex channel. As hydrogen ions use the ATP synthase complex channel, what is formed? What is formed?
ATP.
ATP. Thank you very much. Okay? So now take a look at this picture. Okay? You should understand this a lot better, right? Because when we see this light coming in, we could think like there's two arrows here because there's two light reactions, right? Okay? Here we can see water coming in and who's coming out? Oxygen, because we broke the water in half. Right here, the light reactions are sending ATP and reduced NADP. Do you see the two dots right there? Those are like representing the two electrons. That's going to go to our Calvin cycle dark reaction, light independent reaction. And then we're going to use that energy to take CO2 and form sugar and send back ADP and oxidized NADP. Okay? And then here's a question for you. Yes, this could be 4. Now, what could you do over this long weekend? Tell me again. Review what you've already learned, and you could also look, look ahead, okay? We have the second part. We have the Calvin cycle left to learn, and then we have cellular respiration, which is basically doing the same thing backwards. Will this be 4?
Wow.
Please take your time. Look, we have 4 of you. For shame. For shame. Now, review, okay? And we will pick up here, whatever slide we are on, when will I see you again? Monday.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday?
No school.
Oh, right, yeah. That reminds me, I made an assignment due Monday for 5th period. I better change that. Okay, so, yeah, I'll see you then. Make good choices. What happens in Vegas comes home on your,